Welcome to Journaling with Nature, the podcast for those who want to turn curiosity into wonder, a pencil sketch into a rabbit hole of discovery, a moment of stillness into a life full of joy. I'm your host, Bethan Burton. Let's open the pages of our nature journals and explore this world together. Hello, this is episode 171. I hope you're doing well. I cannot believe that it's the end of October or coming to the end of October already. The Inktober in the Garden Challenge is almost over, just a few more days to go. I'm currently 2 days behind on the challenge, so I'll be doing some catching up this week. I'm looking forward to sharing today's conversation with you. I'm talking with Ria Kotze. Ria is an artist originally from South Africa, but who has had adventures in so many different places around the world and is currently living in the Pacific Northwest in the USA. Ria started her artistic journey about 4 years ago and has been following her paintbrush wherever it leads her ever since then. In our conversation, Ria tells the story of how a bird asking to be painted started her on this new creative journey. Let's listen. Ria, thank you so much for being here with me. I am very much looking forward to getting to hear your story.
I'm super excited. This is such an incredible opportunity, and I've listened to your podcast, to a few of the podcasts, and it was so refreshing to hear everybody, how they started with nature journaling and how they, it's all like we have the same thing in common.
Yes.
Because all of us wanted to find that little extra magic outside, and we do. And so it feels like your podcast is connecting all these people. It's like little stars, you know. I just love this. Thank you.
That is a beautiful analogy. Little stars connected with a shared vision, a shared passion for nature. This is so beautiful. I would love to start by hearing some stories about your earliest nature memories, your earliest connections with nature.
Right. So I grew up on a farm in South Africa they call it the Green Kalahari. So it's basically desert area, but sometimes when it rains, it's magic when it rains, because it can be red sand one day and the next day you just see these tiny sprigs of grass all over, and it's just green everywhere. It's pure magic. I've never experienced that, and I've traveled into so many places, but that was my first experience of the magic of nature. So there as kids, all we did, you know, in those days, there was no parent people looking after you. Yeah, you just go out and you play outside, and they don't want to see you until dinner times. So we would just run outside every day, and I couldn't wait. I just could not wait to get outside. And we would make we would build our own farm outside and make roads in the red sand and have tractors going up and down. Or we would go out and make little houses, stick houses in the under bushes. It was really a magical time. You know, if you look back at it and you think, how was that even possible? How did we survive? Because there's so many poisonous snakes around, there's scorpions, but we did it. We went outside, and I think that experience is something that never leaves you. You know, you can go to live in a city and you can have a job and you can sit in traffic every single day, but that experience of that magic on land is just, it does not go away.
I love that you've said that. I think that is so important. And that's in fact why I ask this question of each of my guests, because I think that magic that you build in childhood, those experiences of unsupervised, unstructured play outdoors, they put something inside us, don't they? They put something inside us that you carry, even if, and this happens with a lot of my guests, in the story, there's a play outside, and then there's maybe a disconnection through teenage years or early adulthood where nature isn't that important. And then there's that seed is there, and it it continues and you come back to it. Something that is instilled, and then we can revisit it.
Mm-hmm. It is very true. And, and this is so interesting that you asked me to talk to you about this, because I'm at this moment in my life where that circle is coming to close, where I feel like I've done so many things, I've seen so many places, but the land is calling me back. And with nature journaling and the interest in birds, that it just all comes together, and that calling of the farm and the land is very loud and clear.
Yeah.
I need to complete the circle to move forward.
Yeah. Well, tell me about nature now. When you go outside, tell me about the outdoors in your life now.
So I live in a very pretty part of the United States at the moment, the Pacific Northwest, and it is so beautiful. It's lush. The first thing people notice when they come here for the first time is that moss grow on rooftops.
Oh, yeah, wow.
So it's really lush and green, and we have so many options here. We can go to the beach, or you can go to a volcanic mountain, or there's desert areas, there's forests, there's rainforest, so it's really magical, but you don't have to go far to get out in nature. And that's my philosophy whenever I talk to people, or if I have kids that I introduce to nature journaling, I will just tell them, you don't have to go anywhere.
Yes.
You just go outside your door.
Yes.
And you will find something. And I also tell them that nature waits for us to make that decision to go outside and be still, because you don't see or hear anything unless you sit still for a few minutes. And I can promise you, if you sit still for those few minutes, something around you will happen. There'll be a butterfly coming to sit on your leg, or an insect flying to this plant next to you. It will happen. It's a guarantee. But it wants us to do that. It wants us to go sit down for a few minutes and take in your environment and be in the moment. So nature for me at the moment is just step outside your door.
Yes,
Yeah.
Very close to home is where it is. That's where it's accessible to you, because you can't ask someone, have these nature experiences, get in your car, drive for half an hour and on a busy day. It doesn't happen. So it has to be, like you say, just outside the door. And we can see those things. We can have an interaction with the butterfly. We can see an amazing cloud formation. We can do those things by stepping out just outside our door. I love that that's where the action happens for you.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So tell me, I want to hear a bit more of your story. So a childhood in South Africa, then tell me how you find yourself in the Pacific Northwest. Tell me the story of your adventures so far.
And my journey.
Yeah.
I grew up on the farm. I went to university. I decided to go into geography, because that was also the other thing that still to this day, I mean, I cannot not look at a map. And so maps have been my interest all my entire life. I always wanted to know where something is, and I want to go look at a map and see exactly where it is. And so I did geography, and then I did geographical information systems to be able to find work with my degree. So I ended up at there's a lot of in between, because I also went and teach in Taiwan. I lived in Taiwan for a little bit, which was really interesting. Again, for me to experience a different culture and really experience it by living there. Yes. And working with little kids. It's so different from just traveling to a place. So that was a very nice experience. And I'm coming back to this journey where I ended up working on a mine in the Kalahari, back in the Kalahari, doing geographical information systems. And I think it's there where it happened to me that I realized that I need to be outside. I have to be getting outside. So, and I think the thing that happened was also that whenever I struggled with something that I need an answer for or a decision I have to make, I just go and I take a walk outside. And almost every single time, once I did that, something becomes clear. You know, so the answer pops out, or I know which direction to go into. So I slowly started to realize that I cannot sit in an office. This is not who I am. I cannot do this job anymore. And so I've always wanted to learn about I grew up on the farm and my dad had horses, but I wanted to do more with horses. And I had another love. I always wanted to see Montana because growing up we had the National Geographic magazines, and I would always see these beautiful places, and most of the time they were in Montana. So I thought, I have to go to Montana. Yeah. So then I connected my horse love and Montana by going to the Montana State University and went to horseshoeing school.
Wow.
So I did that, and then I did some horseshoeing. I worked in Virginia with a special group of people that was really nice. And I think from starting from from there on, I never went back to an office. It was always something to do with nature, something outside, working outside, or doing outside. So I went to work at a bird lodge in Uruguay, and partly to learn to speak Spanish. And that was, I think, you know, then again, I went to the work at a bird lodge, and I did see all these birds, and I was fascinated by them, but it wasn't a passionate thing at that time. And so then I decided to come back here and settle in the Pacific Northwest, and I became a nanny. And that was also, again, I could take these kids outside, rain or shine or snow. We would go outside every single day. And I just love it so much because I could teach them. I could actually show them. We could walk in the streets, and I could stop at a plant and say, smell this. What do you smell? This is a rosemary. And so we go along, you know, when we find insects and beetles and all these interesting things. So that's always been part of me, the teaching. I think I was born a teacher, honestly, because from a very young age, I would get my sister and my brother and make books for them, and then I would be the teacher, and they had no choice by sitting down and learning. So poor kids. But anyway, so the teaching and the nature is, you know, slowly was coming together with this nanny work that I did. And then I started to get more interested in nature journaling specifically. And I think the first, so the bird story come in here too, because then for the first time, I saw this bird, and I heard people on other podcasts, they call it the spark bird.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my spark bird was the Western tanager.
Okay.
It's this beautiful yellow and red bird, and I saw it one day when I was walking outside, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have never seen anything like that in nature.
Oh wow.
And I know you guys have the most beautiful colorful birds out there. Yeah.
So for the listener who might not know, the spark bird is the bird that starts you off with birding passion. So it's obviously not the first bird you've seen, but it's the first bird that's ignited something in you, that's sparked this continuing passion.
So yes, I think that's where it all started, and because then immediately I went to paint that bird because the colors was just gorgeous. But I didn't know anything about painting. I've never really painted or had a journal or had anything to do with watercolor art or nothing. Wow. So yeah, and this happened about 4 years ago that this bird came to me.
That's amazing. So the bird sparked this desire to put it down on paper in some way, and then that opened up the creativity.
And you know, it's so interesting because that experience or that feeling that I had when I saw this bird was immediately, it almost asked me, please put me down on paper.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so then the bird thing started, and these birds just came in, and again, you know, they were just asking to be put on paper, and I did it. I couldn't sleep almost. I was just like, I have to paint birds. I have to get birds on paper. And that's where, you know, I started to learn the names of the birds, first of all, because I had no idea. And, you know, I think your previous guest, Sophia, she mentioned this, where she was saying she's almost sad that she was not interested in birds before, because if I think of all my travels on all these countries, how much I could have learned about birds by now. Yes. But, you know, it's never too late. And I'm just happy where I'm at the moment by really, truly getting into birds. So then it all starts where I saw this challenge on Instagram through a woman that had this ABC of birds going on. So I started to do that, and I started painting all these birds, and I love that challenge. That was really, really nice for me to sit and actually look a bird up and learn about it. Because then, you know, if I decided to do the A is going to be the avocet, I actually would sit down and I read about the bird, and I learn what they do, where they live. And talking about the avocet, it's actually so nice because this summer we went to this beautiful area in Central Oregon. It's called the Malheur Wildlife Refuge.
Okay.
And this is a paradise for birds. It's in one of the flyways, and it's wading birds, it's songbirds, it's everything you can imagine. So for the first time ever, I saw the avocet.
Was it after you'd painted it?
Yeah, it was years after. So it was such a magical moment to see that, to see the bird in the wild, actually. Yeah, so that challenge kind of got me hooked, and I realized that this is becoming a passion, because once you start, and I think Sophia mentioned this too, or maybe it was Mary Jo that said, for the first time in my life, I experienced where when you sit down and you do art, that the time just disappears. Yes. Because I start, and then 2 hours later, I'm where did it go? Where did the time go? I don't know. And I've never had that before with anything I did. So that was an eye opener to me. And I realized then that this is a true passion. And so
this is an amazing story.
So that was the beginning of the birds. And then, you know, you don't, especially when you launch yourself, or this passion talks to you, then you start to want to know more. And then you don't want to know more about plants, because everything is connected.
Yes.
And you cannot just sit and do the one without the other one. So then I was starting to learn about plants, and I wanted to draw plants. And I, you know, in the beginning, especially with, I feel like our old people that come into art at a later stage, no formal education either in any art form. So you try to find your way. You try to find what is it that I want to do? Do I want to play with watercolor? Do I want to try colored pencils? Do I want to do birds? Do I do plants? You know, because you don't know what your style is. You don't know what you really want to do. And my thought was always with this is, I'm just going to go where the paintbrush is leading me. I'm not going to resist anything. I'm going to try everything and see where the paintbrush wants me to go. And so the brush actually led me to become more detailed with my art. And so I went into more botanical art and flowers and things after I discovered the Lara Gastinger on Instagram with her Perpetual Journal. So I got into the plants, and I got into the botanical art, and it's interesting because I loved it. I really, and I still do my Perpetual Journal. I just love it so much because now I look back, my journal is 3 years old now, so I look back to what I did 3 years ago. It is just so nice to see how far you've come with your art, and then also to go back to see, oh, I saw this plant 3 years ago, and you remember exactly where you saw it.
Yes.
This is what this journaling is all about, and that's why I think nature journaling is such an incredible tool, because you remember where you were that moment you put that little picture down.
I love the idea that you're on your 3rd round of the Perpetual Journal. So we've talked about Perpetual Journals on the show before, but for anyone who doesn't know what that is, a Perpetual Journal is a special kind of nature journaling developed by Lara Gastinger, as you said, who laid out this style where you have a page for each week of the year, and then you revisit those pages, putting down a new observation year after year. And I think Lara had one that was 13 or 15 years in the same journal. So you have this amazing record of your place, your rhythms, your nature cycles.
Yeah, it is such a nice way to record nature. And, I think with this, where we live with our social media, also with this citizen science that we do, this Perpetual Journal is citizen science.
Yes.
Because it's the seasons. You go back and you see the blackberries were ripe last year at this time, but then when you go back this year and say, oh, they're not ripe yet.
Yes.
It's 2 weeks later, so you notice that, and then you realize that you can actually participate in what's happening in nature, because you go back and you see what happened a year or 2 years ago. So it's a really nice tool to just keep track of nature. Yes. And become a science citizen.
Yeah, and I love you have this special little stamp that you put in your Perpetual Journal each month. Tell me about that. I thought that was really beautiful.
Thank you. So Lara, it's funny because she was also looking for a stamp for her date stamp, and she couldn't figure out what she wants to do, and she just wrote it in pencil, and then she found a little stamp, and I thought I was going to find a nice stamp. I was either going to put the date in there and make some fancy writing, or I'm going to see if I can find a stamp. So I went on this big journey, Googling everywhere, trying to see where I can find a stamp. And I came across this, and I thought, this is it. This is exactly what I want. So I got that, and I'm so, so happy I did.
So it looks a little like a postage stamp almost, with the little beveled edge and the date in the center.
Yeah, and a little something about the month, I think it says too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was, that to me was a little great find.
A special little detail. Yeah.
Yes.
On your Instagram, you write in your biography, I'm possessed by the paintbrush. I'll follow it wherever it takes me. And when you were talking about this need, when you found your spark bird, and then the next one and the next one, they almost asking you to put their likeness down on the page, it is almost like you say, I'm possessed by that feeling, and it is almost like a need, being possessed by that, being pushed forward. And I would love to hear you speak about that idea of your creativity being something that leads you, that you're going, like you said, you found the birds, then everything's linked. So you found the botanicals and the next thing and the next thing. And that idea that your creativity is leading you forward on its own path, and you're following with your brush is such a beautiful image.
That's very true. And I, again, it's like puzzle pieces coming together. And with this bird thing, and then the botanicals, and it finally got me back to birds. And I think this is my not resting spot, but this is my path that I found, that the birds is definitely the main thing that I need to follow.
Yeah.
And so I am actually so into it right now. I'm super passionate that I have started this course at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology with it's called Bird Biology.
Great.
And it is absolutely fascinating. I cannot even tell you how much joy it brings me to know more about birds, and every single little thing, like how the feather develops. It's incredible. So I definitely am moving into a direction where bird is becoming the main feature, and that is going to be my main goal eventually. I think to the idea that I might have is to become a bird guide, but also incorporate nature journaling with that, and teach people about birds, because again, that passion, we cannot keep it for ourselves. It needs to come out in some form, and to me is the teaching that I can share with people these incredible species of birds, and what they are and what they do. And again, I think we as humans think that we know so much, but we actually know nothing.
Yes.
Because the amount of things that we learn from just birds is incredible. It is incredible. So I am moving into that direction of wanting to combine knowledge of birds with nature journaling. And I just believe that, again, coming back to nature journaling, is that the more you know about something, the more you want to take care of it.
Yes.
And for me personally, I feel kids need to know this. They need to get away from screens. They need to go outside. They have to find this connection again, because if they don't know this, then they don't know how to care for the environment. And for me, that is the most important thing. We need to be able to know more so we can take care more.
Yeah, I love your idea for moving forward into learning about birds and then teaching that and combining nature journaling with bird knowledge, but also just that revisiting that you said you've always felt like teaching was part of you. Teaching was inbuilt inside you, and to be able to combine those passions, art and birding and teaching, is just a wonderful thing to move into. I love that. I love that you're going to go forward with that.
Yes, it's a goal, and I'm hoping it's gonna take form soon, because it's a burning passion.
Yes.
I need to get out and do this.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that you have these two sides of you, because you have the teacher, and I know that you have the learner, because there's a quote from you on one of your posts: "This art journey is a non-stop learning experience." And I would love to hear you speak about that, your creative, the people who have influenced you online, and the online classes you've taken, the people who the ones that you want to learn from, and the experiences of those classes.
Yes, and that is also, I'm passionate about that, because I do believe we can learn all the time, and we have to learn. We have to learn more and gain more knowledge, and because for me, it's the curiosity, the curious mind leads you to want to know more.
Yes.
And it's almost like a 2-year-old, that comes to ask you, why is this, why is that, why is this green, why is that thing blue, why do I want to, and you have to do that. You have to ask all the time, why is this happening? Why do I see this right now? Because that's your curiosity that keeps on going and inspiring you and keep you going. No, but also at the beginning of this art journey, I met this group online, and I cannot remember how this happened, but it's this woman is she owns a store in Cordova in Alaska.
Oh wow!
And her name is Dottie. And she's a wonderful, wonderful person. She started this group of watercolor people that meet every Monday, and it's all over, it's everywhere in the US and in Alaska. So we just meet every Monday. We check in, we talk about what we journaled, what we did, show our art. And it's like she says, it's just just to show up here is already a step forward, because for us to be as a community to inspire each other, we have to show up. If you don't show up, then you cannot be there to inspire and to learn. Mm-hmm. And so she started this amazing little group, and I'm still we still meet every Monday. I think it's also my 3rd year or 4th year now that we're doing this. Yeah, it's really amazing. So she and also she had this beautiful quote the other day that I just want to tell you real quick. She said, we as people have an important role in stewardship, and the more we learn, the more we care, the more we love, the more we protect and care. Yeah. And I just love that.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So she was a very big influence to me, and she we would arrange over the summer to study somebody's book or somebody's work, and we did John Muir Laws. I think we did both of his books, the Drawing Bird book and the Nature Journal book. We worked through, and we did 2 summers of Roseanne Hansen, which I feel like is almost the queen of nature journaling here. She's just also amazing with her travels. And, again, I think what I'm trying to teach the kids too when I have them for nature journaling is we don't need to worry about whether you can draw or paint. It's just for that moment that you're in nature. If you can draw a straight line and right next to a tree, it doesn't matter how it looks like. It's your experience at that moment. And again, to look back at your journals a few years after to see what you did the previous year. And for kids, I think that's amazing because they do something, but it doesn't really go in. And then when they look at it from a year later, they say, oh, I did this.
Yes.
And I remember that. And I remember I was with you, So that makes a big influence. So yeah, so she was a very influence. And then I think right in the beginning, I was fascinated by Janine Zlatkis. She's a bird artist too, but she does more whimsical birds. Her work is beautiful. She lives in, I think she lives in New Mexico. So she does all the desert kind of art with the birds. But I think that was also my start with this whole bird thing, because my first birds were also whimsical.
Yes.
And later on they became more detailed. So yeah, I think the community and especially Instagram, I mean, social media can be good or bad, but for me, Instagram has really been such a inspiring source of information, and this community of artists are just so supportive and willing to share and giving, and I love this. I absolutely love this. Yeah, we can all share.
I agree. I think Instagram can be a force for evil, or it can be a force for good. It can be a place that sucks your energy, or it can be a place that invigorates your creativity and inspiration. And I too have found there just the most amazing, loving, generous community of people who love the same things. It's quite amazing. And I agree that finding your community is what helps you continue. It's what helps you move forward. It's what gives you inspiration. It's the people you learn from and the people that guide you in new wonderful directions. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've actually become good friends with somebody that I met on Instagram. So we would get together sometimes and just go sit and paint. And that is my happiest days.
Yes.
We can just do that. And then somebody else that I need to mention that's so super, super inspiring is somebody from Australia. Her name is Sharon Field. Mm-hmm. She does this scroll that she started. She calls it 3,000 Days and Counting.
Oh, wow.
So she paints on the scroll. You can roll it up, but she says actually her thing is it's her protest against climate change. So she wants to paint. She paint or draw a picture every single day, and she's going to do it for 3,000 days.
Wow.
And so she has traveled with these scrolls to Europe, and she's coming. I think this month or next month is the the American Association of Botanical Arts, their annual meeting, and she's bringing one of her scrolls there. So she's going to roll it out and show it, but she's ongoing with this. And she has been so inspiring with what she does and her passion for this. And that she truly believes that she needs to do this to try and bring the awareness of climate change to people. It's wonderful to see her work. It is absolutely amazing. So she's been a very big inspiration. It's almost like, reminds me of Mary Jo Hoffman, where she does that also every day. It's so inspiring.
Yes.
And to me, that's, I cannot do that. I've tried that, to do a painting a day. And I mean, that's still a goal or a something that I want to do, but I aspire people that can do that, that have that motivation and that determination to sit and do something once a day.
Yes. I'm going to leave all the links to the inspiring people you've been talking about in the show notes of this podcast so the listener can chase them up. I love that you've found all these amazing people who have given you different types of inspiration as well, techniques, but also just like passion and activism, like the artist you were just talking about. These people, I'll put the links so that other people can find them too.
One more person I want to mention is Max Romy.
Yes.
He's from Alaska, and he came here one day to Portland because he's working with a shoe company, a local shoe company called Keen. And his journey is so inspirational too. He's dyslexic, and he just decided one day that the way that he can talk is through his art. And he started to do art. So he would go outside and he would sit in Alaska. I mean, it's almost winter all the time there. So he would go out in the snow, in the cold, but he's got his paintbrush and his water brush and his little art kit, and he would sit and he would paint something. And just a small tiny picture, it to show you too, nothing has to be big or beautiful, or it's just that you want to capture that little moment that you have in time to sit outside and do something.
Yes.
And he's a very good example of that. And he's been such an inspiration for younger people too, because I took my nephew there, and my nephew is not into art at all, but he actually sat there and he drew a mountain and painted it, and he was very impressed with himself afterwards.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, he has this way of making art on the go as well, which I find so inspiring, and he might do it on the trail or on a bike or somewhere crazy like that, and that is inspiring because art can be a part of every moment in your life if you invite it in. Absolutely.
So so nature journaling, we talked about how you step outside, and there's this group in South Africa, in Cape Town, that actually has this great idea. They call it a garden safari.
Oh my goodness, tell me about that.
Yeah, it sounds so interesting. It's a Zoom or a WhatsApp event, but they call it the garden safari. So everybody has a day that they need to go outside in their garden. They don't have to get into their cars or go anywhere. Find something that interests them, make a little sketch, and then they get back together and everybody shows what they saw on their garden safari.
That's amazing.
And I just love the word garden safari because you actually feel like you're going on safari outside in your backyard.
Absolutely. And I think that what we're talking about is a mindset shift. And you talked a lot about curiosity and how important that is. And I think that we can go on safari in our backyards when we turn on that curiosity and step out with a different kind of eye, a different kind of view, and that willingness to look at the world like that toddler that you mentioned. What is that? Why is that? Da, da, da. With that sort of mindset, I think we can deliberately be that way. And when we do that, we can go on safari in the backyard and find the most amazing things.
Yes, we can. And I think also, when you start doing nature journaling and you start noticing things, the thing that came up to my mind, because when you go outside, you do see things for the first time.
Yes.
Because like birds, you all your life you've heard birds around you, but you've never seen them.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, when you're interested in it, you become passionate about it, you actually see it. And so when you go outside and you walk, now for me, I just cannot just walk. Something will catch my eye. There will be something on this plant, or there will be something hopping in front of the road, or a slug crossing the road. You see it. And for the first time you do that, and you experience that that everything is happening around you all the time. And I just love that. To me, the feeling comes when I think about that is when you're a kid or you have a big imagination, you open a book, and when you open the book, everything comes alive.
Yes.
The flowers start to grow, the bees start to buzz, the birds fly. And that is, to me, what I've experienced now going into nature. All of a sudden, the whole book comes alive.
Yes. That's amazing. I love that analogy. And it is like that. The world is fascinating, and we can walk through life with our blinkers on and a to-do list and whatever ability we have to block out the reality of the wonder of the world, or we can tune into it and we can lead with that feeling that every single thing around us is amazing. It's amazing that we have a human body. It's amazing that we get to experience the world with our senses in this way. And all those little nature stories like you talked about, those little things that are happening outside, and you mentioned when you sit down and pause, then the butterfly comes, then the slug comes, then the bird comes down, and those nature stories are playing out. And when we sit with it like a children's storybook, and with the same mindset that you might sit down as a child to I'm ready to listen to the stories of nature. It's a whole different way of living, I think.
It is, and almost, you could almost see that once you see it, you cannot unsee it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when you want to know more. You cannot stop, because that's when that spark flies.
Yeah.
You have to know more. You have to find out more. And that is a wonderful, especially with kids, when you see that happening, it's almost like their eyes open and their ears pop out, and it's stuff going on in their mind all of a sudden. It's a wonderful experience.
Yes.
It's amazing. And that's why also, I love doing nature journaling with kids. It brings me back to see better and more, because they observe things differently. And so with that combination with the teaching and the knowledge and their eyes, I learned so much. It's really magical.
Yes. So tell me about your experience. Say you sit down, you see a natural object or phenomenon playing out, and you put that down in your journal, but you're not sure what it is or what's going on. What's the next step? Because you've talked about discovery and researching things to find out more. Where do you go to find information when you don't know what you're looking at, but you want to know more?
So, first of all, I think I've also learned this in nature, because again, nature is not rushed. We need to take the time, take the patience, sit with it a little bit to experience it. Because I'm talking about butterflies again. I was sitting outside and I was reading my book or something, and all of a sudden this butterfly came and it sat on my hand.
Wow.
And again, I lost time. I lost all sense of time, because all I wanted is for this butterfly to sit as long as it can. I didn't want it to move away. So, we should be, yes, I want to know what kind of butterfly that is. I want to know what the caterpillar looks like. I want to know on what plants do they feed, So I want to know all these things, and it's going on in my head. But I thought, I just need to sit with this for a little bit. I just need to watch this butterfly, see what it does. And I looked at it, closely, and I could see its tongue coming out, so it was tasting my hand. And then, okay, so when the butterfly flew away, then I thought, okay, now I need to know. I need to find out what's going on here. So I did. I go on, I have iNaturalist, so I took a few pictures, and I got iNaturalist. So I went in there and I figured out what kind of butterfly it was. And then this was such an interesting thing of, again, why? Because wanted to know what the caterpillar looks like. So I found out the caterpillar, and then I wanted to know what does it feed on. And I saw this specific tree that they live on and feed from, the caterpillars. And so I walked around in the garden because I need to know, where is this tree? And I found the tree, and there was only one of these trees. And so I was so happy that I could connect all these, this whole cycle of this butterfly that just sat on my hand. So that was really, really a nice experience. And then, so my other things, that is for birds specifically, the Merlin app is the best thing that anybody has invented so far. I cannot walk outside anymore and not know what bird is singing there. And the Merlin app is so fantastic with that. So that is my go-to at the moment, just to learn about birds.
Yes.
And you do learn a lot, because the next time you will go and you will hear a bird and immediately know, okay, that's a spotted towie, because you learned from the sound.
It's such a wonderful thing to have knowledge that you've gained through the process of nature journaling and following those curiosity lines, following those things that you're pushed to explore because of your nature journal. And then you take that on with you. You take that knowledge of the sound of that bird and you hear it again, like you said, and it's just something that doesn't leave you after that. So you're constantly collecting this knowledge, and it would take infinite number of lifetimes to understand our world. But what we can do is learn our backyards, and of course not fully, but we can learn some things about our backyards and come to know it more and more and more fully over the years. I wonder if you feel like I do, which is that this is like a lifetime commitment. It's not something that is just a flash in the pan. It's not something that's gonna leave. It's like, okay, now I'm investing myself in knowing my place forever.
I absolutely agree. To me, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is my lifestyle now, and this is not going to change.
Yeah.
It might, because I don't even leave the house without my binoculars anymore. It's on the seat of my car.
Yeah.
It's in my backpack. I just cannot go anywhere without my binoculars. So it's definitely a lifestyle. And again, I feel like once you've tasted this, you cannot not do it anymore.
Yes.
Because it's just so inspiring. It's upbuilding. It's nature. It's magic.
Yes.
And you don't want to lose that magic ever again. So yeah, it is a total lifestyle for me at this stage. And I think sometimes the kids, I have a niece and nephew here, they 12 years old, and I think they haven't shown anything, but I cannot go outside and not tell them something about something that I hear or see there. But it's also so interesting to see, because we've done nature journaling together. We've went on walks, and I try to have them listen to birds, and so that we can learn the songs or what kind of bird that is. And you go through there, it looks like they're not interested and they kind of minding their own business, and you just try and you hope that something will go in.
Yes.
But then like 2 weeks later, we would go on a walk, and then I hear a bird, and I said, oh, what bird is that? And then one of them will say, it's the spotted towie.
Yes.
Oh my God, something happened. This is amazing.
That is such a joyful experience to see. Yeah, yes. They're taking it in, whether it's overt or if it's just taking it in through in their own quiet way. It's happening.
Yeah, it is happening. And also, for all other teachers out there that think that this is not working, it is working. Mm. They do take stuff in, and especially at that age, I think their brains are so receptive to any kind of knowledge, doesn't matter what. So for them to go and outside, they do take in knowledge. And so if it doesn't look like they learn, they do learn. Yes, so yes. Don't give up. Don't stop.
This is delightful. Oh my goodness. I would love to hear you speak about the the media you use, the types of materials that you like to play with. I know that you have a palette by a company called The Art of Soil, which is an ecologically considerate watercolor company. I would love to explore your favorite materials and the things that light you up.
Right. So, my other passion is conservation. So I try to seek out products that are sustainably developed, and this group that I'm meeting with in Alaska, she's also very aware of. She gets speakers in that are people that do sustainable paper printing or sustainable paints, or and I think how we live right now in our environment, there are enough people that do sustainable work that you can support. There's smaller businesses, there are women-owned businesses, so there's all kinds of things that you can look into to support other groups of people and not the mass production of things. So yeah, my first palette that I got, my very first watercolor palette, was from Winsor & Newton. I still use their paints. I really like their paints. I have also used Daniel Smith, who I really like, and their paints are very sustainable and environmentally friendly. And we had somebody that came to talk to our group from the Hanne Miele company in Germany. And I just love their philosophy too of paper making and trying to do it as environmentally friendly as they can. So I do use a lot of their paper. I use mostly hot press. I love hot press paper. I have not ventured into, actually, just recently, a friend pushed me, another artist friend, because again, I think as new artists and the things that we start to discover, I realized too that we shouldn't just say, oh, I'm going to stick with watercolor and hot press paper and that's it. I'm not going to even try anything else because this is working for me. I do not want to know about other stuff. So she was saying to me, you know what? I'm doing this colored pencil course with somebody now. Why don't you just come and sit and try it with me? And I said to her, I've never done colored pencils. I'm not interested in it, but okay, I'll do it with you. So we did this one class. It's also an amazing artist from Australia, and her name is Natalie Eslick.
Okay.
So we did one of her classes in colored pencil. She uses only one color pencil. It's not supposed to be the color of of that animal or bird. It could be a blue fox or whatever, but you only use the one color pencil because her method is to teach you how to use your pencil, not erase, and then go in and make it darker and make it, shadows and so forth. So I went in, I did the color pencil, I loved it.
Fantastic.
And I'm going to do Natalie's course because I think her way of teaching is just so wholesome and so beautiful, and especially for what I want to do eventually, to go out into the field and take people on bird watching tours and combine it with nature journaling. We have to be able to sit and scribble something and put shadows in, put highlights in of the feathers, and you have to do it in a fast way. So, and then you can go back and do it later if you want and do a nice painting of it. But her method talks to me in that way, where I can know what to do to go out and show people how to do that. So yes, again, coming back to the fact that you never say you don't want to do or try something else. You might just like it, or it might just speak to you and you think, oh, this is the thing. This is what I've been waiting for. This is how I want to do this.
Yes.
So try everything. It's so worth it. And we just learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing about materials that you've been exploring is making your own journals. And I think this is a wonderful thing. Can you talk about making your own nature journal and how that feels to take something you've made outdoors with you?
Yes, I'm happy you mentioned that, because it's almost, I'm almost at the point where I cannot go and buy a ready-made journal. The process of the journal making or the book making is such a beautiful art form too, and it's so it's tedious, but again, it's almost like a meditation, because you cut your papers, you take your needle and the cotton or the thread you use, and you sew your book together. And then, when you're done, you have this beautiful handmade journal that is precious.
Yes.
And you want to keep it, it's just makes your nature journaling experience so much more personal.
Yes.
And it is wonderful to make books. It really is. It's not hard. Anybody can do it. There's plenty of information out there how to do it. And I would love for people to go out and make their own journals. It is really, really something precious to have. And, you're proud of what you did there, because it's a book that you made, an actual book.
Yeah, and then filling it with your own sketches of your own observations in nature. It just is so personal and so precious.
Yeah, and I actually, when I take kids for nature journaling camps, we make our own journals before we start our camp, so that they can also know. And again, for the kids to see that they can do this, that they can make their own books is almost something unheard of. When they see this and they see their project, and they almost cannot believe what they just did.
Yeah.
They made their own book, and it could be as easy as making one of those concertina books.
Yeah.
Or it can be sew your pages together. It can be anything, just to make your own thing and then go out and start your nature journaling.
Yeah. Say more about this nature journal and camp. Tell me about that.
So the summer here, the kids have summer camps, and I've started about 2 years ago. I had my niece and nephew as test kids. And we did a week-long nature journaling camp, and
Amazing.
and thank you so much for your nature journaling week, because all those are extremely valuable. Because we did our first day was to use the color theme.
Mm-hmm.
So we only did things that we see in that color.
Oh,
and
amazing.
I mean, it's beautiful, because again, you get these kids to see things. Not just like see a whole sea of things. They see, where do I see red, and what is that red thing that I see?
Yes.
So that is so valuable, and it was so wonderful to use, and the kids loved it, absolutely loved it. The other thing that I feel like was very interesting with kids specifically was the zoom in factor, where you sit and you see a scene, and then you zoom closer and closer until you get to just a little piece of a grass.
Yes.
And that is also, the kids love that. So yes, I take kids out. It's normally just a week. We make our own journal. We go outside for about 3 or 4 hours a day. We would normally pack lunch so that we can eat in a park. And there's plenty parks around here, so it's so nice with little trails, so we can spend time watching birds, or we can look at plants or ladybugs or whatever we find. And then we would, the end of the day, we would come together and everybody talks about what their most special experience was for the day, and then the next day we tackle another theme. And so, like your nature journaling week themes is incredibly helpful. It was wonderful to use that and show the kids around.
That sounds amazing. What a beautiful dedicated time to devote themselves entirely to observing nature for a week. I love that you do that.
Yeah, it is wonderful. And again, I feel like working with kids is so rewarding.
Yes, yes.
Because you see the spark in their eyes. You see the excitement of when they realize that they know what that bird is or they know what that plant is.
Yeah.
It is really, really very fulfilling to work with kids in nature.
Absolutely. I would love to hear about the way that your journaling practice has changed, because you talked about your first birds being a bit whimsical and then changing into being more realistic and more detailed. I find that you're a master of texture. You dive into all different textures. You beautifully show something as shiny or textured or rough or lumpy, and I just love how you do that. And I'm interested in your words, hearing about the ways that your practice has changed as you've developed as an artist and a nature journaler.
Yeah, it is again coming back to follow the paintbrush.
Yes, yes.
In the beginning, it was very loose, and I think I was so excited because once the birds started to happen, I was just so excited to get these birds on paper and as fast as I can.
Yeah.
So I was trying to just plot them down, make up an outline drawing, paint them. And so then the further I went into this and the more interested I became in the birds, I realized that I wanted to show more. I wanted to emphasize where the wing goes underneath the body. And so to do that, you have to put more shadow in that area. Or then you realize, okay, there's light shining on this bird and the area where the light comes in is a little bit lighter. So, this is again all self-taught. I do look at other people's work sometimes to learn more. And I did take 1 or 2 classes, botanical art classes. And but it's mostly self-taught and trying to figure out how do I want to present it. And, the fact that if you are self-taught, for me it was definitely just listen to what your brush wants to tell you, because it will always take you in the direction that you it feels like your personality comes out through your brush. And that is, people try to say, I need to find my style. And how do I do that? It's in your paintbrush.
Yes, I love
because
that.
your body comes through your paintbrush, and that will put your thing on the paper. And so, it doesn't mean like you are going to be this incredible famous artist overnight. That doesn't happen either, but it slowly moves you to where you feel comfortable. And it's never enough, obviously, because you are learning more and more every single time you do something or you put something down. So your work is going to change as you go, because you learn more and you experience more and you figure things out, like how much water do I need to put on my paintbrush to get that effect, or if I want that shadow, what does that mean? Do I use a darker paint or do I do the same color? So it's definitely it's time.
Yes.
and it's patience.
Yes.
And it is to listen to how you want to bring yourself out on the paper, because our art is basically who we are.
Yes.
Or how you want to present how you feel, and that is what my art means to me. It's exactly how I want to feel in what I do and how it looks.
Yeah, I love that description that we put ourselves on the page. And I think that maybe that's why people have such shyness or worry about this is not right, or it's not exactly as I desired it to be, because we put so much of ourselves down on the page. Maybe that's why that feeling comes in, and you feel the need to preface sharing your work with the
I don't know, with those words.
With yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes with yourself, because it is super vulnerable.
Yes.
You know, your vulnerability comes out in your art.
Yes.
And for you then to you know, you have to be vulnerable enough to put it down in the first place, and also then to accept that that is your vulnerability right there.
Yes.
And then you decide, okay, is it okay for me to share this with people around me, or do I want to keep this for myself? And, there's no good answer.
And that's okay. Yeah.
And that's okay. That is absolutely okay. And but you know, again, I feel with our art we connect. That is the most important thing to me. We connect, and the connections are so beautiful.
Yes.
That for me, even with this vulnerability that you put out there, it is something that you can grow into, and that can grow you because of the connections. And the connections are all around. You know, it's with other people, it's with nature, it's with everything around you. So that is why art is just, it's magic. That's all I can say.
This has been such an absolute joy to speak with you and to hear your story and the way that nature touches you and the way that it has ignited your creativity. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you very much. This was such a wonderful experience, and it is it's wonderful to talk about art and nature. And I am so happy that I was able to do this. Thank you so much, Bethan.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Ria. I was captivated by the idea of following the paintbrush, this kind of following the inspiration wherever it takes her and developing as an artist alongside her creative inspirations. And also the story of the beginning of Ria's creative journey and the bird who asked to be painted and started it all. Please go to the show notes for this episode where you'll find links to Ria's website and Instagram, as well as the list of creatives that Ria mentioned in our conversation as her artistic inspirations. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week.